We've got a really good video for you today, but first things first, if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football, do us a huge favor and consider subscribing because we're trying to grow this channel. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. We can only do that with you, but let's bring you today's content, which is these players that are skyrocketing up Dynasty rankings. Now we're to the point in the season where you can start thinking about how these rankings, how these players are flying up or down, and it's actually warranted because you've seen enough of a sample size to where some of this actually means something. Let's go to Josh Downs first. Josh Downs, we released an entire video. Here's a clip from that video about Josh Downs and how you should buy him that came from last summer. We are buying this rookie in every league, and when we say that, we mean it literally. We're going to show you the proof today. Get those trades ready because we're going to pull them off today. But we're going to buy this guy in every league. This is a guy that was projected to go higher in the draft than he did. He fell down draft boards. He's a wide receiver, rookie wide receiver that fell down draft boards that honestly most people had him graded as a late first, early second round pick. He ended up falling to the third round where he was selected by the Indianapolis Colts, and we're talking about Josh Downs today out of North Carolina. As you can see, we were very, very high on Josh Downs, enough to do, a dedicated video on him, and we were absolutely right because we're right about a lot of things sometimes. That was one we nailed. And Josh Downs, in particular, was a guy I was drafting in Devy leagues a year ago. Loved him at North Carolina. Went into the draft. He fell to the third round, and I was like, my gosh. But then he got drafted by my... There's somewhere on our YouTube channel, there's a video of my reaction when he got drafted. Because we were recording a video when it came up on the screen.
And I said, Avery, look. And you said, it was crazy. It was awesome.
I do think Josh Downs is living up to the hype that I placed on him. Looking at the last 4 games for Josh Downs, 14 points, 23 points, 13 points, and 15 points. This is fantastic. Josh Downs was always going to be a receiver that was going to be very good in the NFL in my eyes. And now, when you're looking at his market price, because obviously he's more valuable, he's a wide receiver 28 now. I mean, that's pretty high.
Yep.
So I guess the question is, what do we do with Josh Downs? Josh Downs is a really good receiver. Josh Downs should have been an early second-round pick, probably. Josh Downs fell, but he went to a good situation. He has decent quarterback play. Anthony Richardson will be able to support Josh Downs over the next couple of years. There's obviously the off chance that the Colts draft into the receiver. I obviously don't think it would be the smartest thing to go buy Josh Downs everywhere right now because of the way his price has increased, but I'm not selling him.
No.
I'm not selling Josh Downs.
Nope.
I do not think this is his ceiling. I think his ceiling is a wide receiver 2. I've always thought that. I will continue to think that. And this is just kind of a my guy. So some people may not agree with this, but at wide receiver 28, I'm fine with that price. I think it could go a little bit higher to wide receiver 22, 24. I'd be cool with that. Now, if it gets any higher, if it gets in the teens, no thank you. But again, I think this is what Josh Downs was created to be. And I do think that if you can get him any cheaper than this, I would still buy if you can get wide receiver 3 prices for him.
Yeah, he's on pace for about 110 targets and about 1,000 yards.
1,000 yards. Have you
As
seen?
a rookie.
I'm starting to get excited. Have you seen the metrics with receivers in their rookie season that get 1,000 yards? If he hits that, I'm going to be.
They go nuts.
It's bananas. So we love Josh Downs. He's one of us, and we're not. We got so much hate because we're like, you guys are clearly homers. Of course, you picked Josh Downs. Blah blah blah. We were homers. We were right about it. Yeah. I'd have no shame in being a homer when it's about a player that I'm convicted.
You got to give Avery credit, too. He was not a homer on Josh Downs. He was all over Josh Downs way before he ever went to the Colts. He would have been all about Josh Downs even if he didn't go to the Colts. And even though he was higher than Simon and I were on Josh Downs, I think anyone in their right mind who saw Josh Downs as a prospect, they were all shocked when he fell to the third round.
Yes.
That was like unreal. Like he shouldn't have gone any later than the second, in our opinion. And I think that's holding true right now. Maybe we beat the NFL on our analysis of Josh Downs.
Maybe we should be NFL GMs.
Rashid Rice is going to be our next guy here. He has skyrocketed up Dynasty rankings just in the last couple of weeks because of what he's done with very limited opportunity, honestly. 5 targets, 4 targets, 6 and 5 over the last month with, very friendly matchups, honestly. But his snap share has just slowly increased. He's gone from 30 to 49 to 59 against the Chargers in week 2. He's pulled in a couple touchdowns as well. He's honestly just been the one that's reaped the benefits of every defense focusing and prioritizing Travis Kelce as essentially the wide receiver 1 there. And when you're looking at the rest of the receivers in Kansas City, it's Justin Ross, who no longer exists because he's on the commissioner's exempt list. You've got Justin Watson, who's essentially the deep threat, along with MVS. They get a couple catches a week. And then Kadarius Toney, who can't catch the ball and is kind of a gadget guy. And then you have Mecole Hardman, who is now back, and he's doing what Mecole Hardman does, which is not very much from a fantasy perspective. So that leaves Rashid Rice. And our offseason prediction was that Rashid Rice was going to do this, man, that he would solidify himself as a wide receiver one there. The reason he was being shorted was because of Kadarius Toney. And even though we didn't love Rashid Rice as a college prospect, the opportunity he's definitely been able to capitalize on, and not even the fact that he's playing with Patrick Mahomes, not even that opportunity. Just the fact that he's been able to, with his limited volume, capitalize on that and really do more than what he's been expected to do as a rookie wide receiver. And what does that do? That gains trust with the best quarterback in the NFL. And in Dynasty Fantasy Football, where you're looking at the contract that Mahomes has long-term, and you're looking at Kelsey probably being on his way out, retiring within the next few years, like, this is a really great situation for Rashid Rice to produce as a consistent, I would say, high-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2, probably at best. But it's really nice compared to what his price was in the offseason. I think you've got to be loving this situation. Am I buying Rashid Rice now? No, kind of the same situation as Josh Downs. But I am buying the hype. I'm not buying him in Dynasty, but I'll buy the hype. I'm definitely not selling high because I think this is only scratching the surface of what Rashid Rice is capable of doing in a very friendly offense for inexperienced, not super talented wide receivers.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're looking at him as a route runner in college, holy crap. He was first. He was in the first percentile against man. First is bad. That's like the worst of the worst of the worst.
His route running
worst.
was bad.
7th percentile against the zone, 14th percentile against press. You see those numbers on reception perception and his success rate by route, and you're like, oh my gosh, what did the Chiefs see in him? He's going to be an absolute bust. But what you did is you trusted the situation. You trusted their development of wide receivers, hopefully, which they haven't really been able to do since Tyreek Hill. But hey, True. You may as well bet on the guy who was drafted in the second round who's less raw than Sky Moore. And you end up with a guy who's doing all right, honestly. And that's what Rashid Rice is. He's just all right in a situation where Patrick Mahomes is throwing him the ball.
I think it just makes the most sense to hold him at this point.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
All right, let's move over to Travis Etienne, who is the running back 2 in fantasy points this year.
Nice.
He is the running back 4 on Keep Trade Cut for Dynasty value. So what are we doing with Travis Etienne? There are really 2 cases to be made here for Travis Etienne. Let's start with the positive one. The positive one is going to be the opportunity share, which is 4th in the league. The carries, he's 1st in carries, 5th in targets, 3rd in rushing yards, 2nd in receiving yards, 3rd in total touchdowns, 4th in fantasy points per game. Now,
so all y'all who say we don't take our L's, we're taking our L right here. We were wrong about
this
Travis
season,
Etienne.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Then there's this part. There's this argument, the flip side, the efficiency. He's 40th in true yards per carry. He's 23rd in yards per touch. He's 21st in breakaway run rate, right?
Yep.
He's 29th in yards created per touch. He's 127th in EPA. He's not the most efficient back. So you have a couple different guys you can look at to compare Travis Etienne's situation. Let's go to Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor in that 2021 season was very good in all these productivity and opportunity stats, but he was efficient. So that's why we were more comfortable buying into him. However, you also have Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs last year wasn't the most efficient back, but was more like this. And let's look at Josh Jacobs this season. How's he doing? It's not been fantastic. So if you invested in Josh Jacobs as a 24-year-old back, now he's 25 in a contract year, not very efficient. It's caught up with him. It's not great. There are multiple cases to be made for Travis Etienne. Really what it comes down to is you have to look at the guys around him. Bijan Robinson is the RB1, and then you have Christian McCaffrey and Breece Hall. I'm comfortable taking all 3 of those guys over Travis Etienne in Dynasty leagues. Then there's Kenneth Walker. I'm fine if you want Etienne. I'm fine if you want Walker. I'd probably lean Etienne. And then there are 2 guys here. Devon Etienne, and Jahmyr Gibbs.
And Jonathan Taylor.
Well, yeah. But these 2 guys in particular are guys that I would, because they are within 2 spots of Travis Etienne in value, if you can flip them in a 3rd for Travis Etienne, I'm doing it. I want Travis Etienne over those guys because Travis Etienne, number one. Yeah, I mean, you can compare him to each of those guys, but situationally, especially comparing him to Jahmyr Gibbs, he's in a better situation. The opportunity share alone, the opportunity share in the red zone carries and the touchdowns alone, it makes him far better option than Jahmyr Gibbs because he is another talented pass catcher. So he has the PPR upside. But when you're comparing him to Etienne, I mean, number one, he's also, again, he's getting more opportunity than Etienne, even though Etienne's is like super efficient so far. That's not going to continue. Etienne has more workhorse capability than Etienne, for sure. There also is the argument to be made that Etienne is in a very good offense and will be for the next couple of years with Trevor Lawrence. So I see all that. I think it's going to depend on what you're selling Travis Etienne for. I think there are guys I would be buying Travis Etienne, and then there are guys I would be pivoting off of. JT is not even in the top 6, 7 and I like JT more than I like Travis Etienne.
Yeah. This will be interesting to see how the dust settles with Travis Etienne's value and will ultimately be the decider of whether we think that Travis Etienne is a buy or a sell. And I think you're going to have two camps with Etienne, I would predict, at the end of the year, where some are going to say, oh, this is his breakout season. This is awesome. He's going to be great for years to come. And others are going to say, there's nowhere but backtracking from this and coming back from a production standpoint for the next year or two because of how much his efficiency has gone down and because of the abnormal usage that he's gotten. I mean, 220 carries, which was already abnormal for a Doug Peterson offense in 2022. He tops that with 150 halfway through the season this year. He's on track for over 300 rushing attempts with only 3.9 yards per carry at the moment. I mean, he's barely going to break 1,000 yards with 300 rushing attempts. And you're looking at some of the Jag games. We've seen a lot of Jaguars games. A lot of his high-scoring games have come from big playability, some of his receiving usage, which has been very nice. He's also laid some duds, some big-time duds. And those duds come from weeks where he isn't scoring multiple touchdowns. That would be the case that I would anticipate for selling Travis Etienne in the offseason if he ends up being valued as a top 3 dynasty running back, which I think is definitely his ceiling right now. I have not gotten to a point where I am where I'm hard set on one side or the other right now. I'm definitely in the middle trying to get a little bit more
Honestly,
of a grip on or a grasp on the situation with Travis Etienne. But what I will say is this season we were wrong about Etienne. We thought he would fall in value, and he did nothing but skyrocket in value. Next guy that we're going to have here is Puka Nacua, and we've talked about him here a bit in Dynasty already, but you're looking at his value now. I believe he's at wide receiver 9. And is that deserving based off of his production? Absolutely. Is absolutely deserving based off of his production. Am I selling Puka Nacua? At the moment, at his current price, and with his situation where you have a big question about his production with and without Matthew Stafford, how much longer is Matt Stafford going to play? When is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be consistently healthy? What's Puka Nacua going to do with Cooper Kupp? What's going to happen to Cooper Kupp after this season? Will he get traded away? Will the Rams go into a full rebuild after this season? We don't really know. And I think because of those question marks, if you can get a low-end wide receiver 1 in exchange for Puka Nacua, or even plus, I think I'm selling Puka Nacua. A lot of people right now in their comments are asking us, hey, would you prefer Jalen Waddle or Puka Nacua? It's not a question for me. It's not even a question.
Holy smokes.
It's Jalen Waddle by far. And this isn't even a draft capital question anymore. I think at this point, we know that wide receivers, late round wide receivers who show out and produce, their career trajectory isn't the same as those low draft capital, low investment running backs.
True.
It's so hard to come by really good wide receivers that when you hit on them, you eventually pay them. They get paid their dues. Their draft capital isn't as significant. I'm not worried about that with Puka Nacua. I'm not treating him like some lesser wide receiver. I am because of his situation for the Rams and how many lingering question marks there are going to be for years to come. We know what type of offense Mike McDaniel runs in Miami. We know what type of offense Jalen Waddle, or what type of production Jalen Waddle is capable of putting up playing alongside Tyreek Hill. The biggest question mark we have is Devon Achane there and how much he's going to take away from Jalen Waddle. And I can tell you pretty confidently that I don't think Devon Achane is going to be able to consistently put up 2 to 3 touchdowns a game. If you think that's going to happen, then I guess you can call me a hater and someone who's ridiculous and irrational. But yeah, I would bet on the talent here. I would bet on the situation. I just think Jalen Waddle's a lot safer.
Looking at the wide receivers Puka's going around, I'll read the 6 guys. Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave, Stephon Diggs, and Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison would be the only guy I'd be like, yeah, probably hold Puka. His value has reached a point to where I think even if I trade him away, his ceiling is not far off from what it is now. So even if he somehow like maintains this, I didn't lose because I got a wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
I think I hate to say it, I think he's an absolute sell. When he's going the 2-3 turn.
Yeah, I think there's a greater chance that Puka Nacua falls in value next season as opposed to some of these guys that are going around him, who I think will probably maintain their value more.
Yeah,
potentially.
I'm selling at that price for sure. And I like Puka, but it's too much.
Ooh, you get to talk about Swifty.
All right, whatever. DeAndre Swift. So DeAndre Swift was the guy I was in love with from a dynasty perspective, and then I hated him because he screwed all of my teams. And then this year I have him on some of those teams still because I couldn't sell him, and now he's doing well, and I'm first in those leagues. So I'm like, I don't really know what to do.
And who screamed to buy DeAndre Swift?
Nathan's been very high. Now he's a running back 1 on Keep Trade Cut. He's the RB12. And when you're looking at who he's valued around, Tony Pollard's still the RB10. What do we... He's not even an RB1 in fantasy production right now.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Okay. Calm down. If you can flip Tony Pollard for DeAndre Swift, I'm buying DeAndre Swift.
Swift has yet to get tagged. He's younger. He's more efficient. He's doing more with less.
Oh my gosh. This is so disgusting. It's changing my mind. Kamara, Pacheco, Jacobs, Eckler, Pollard, and then Saquon. Saquon, I'll take. Outside of that, give me Swift. And there is a caveat. It's partly because the running back market's really gross right now.
Yeah. My intention with buying DeAndre Swift this offseason was to eventually sell him once he inevitably showed out behind a really good offensive line. I don't even know if I'm selling him right now.
I'm holding.
In fact, if you're a contender and you have to go buy DeAndre Swift and pay a first, I would take that as a rebuild, but I would also be okay with that as a contender.
Yeah, I'm actually just going to say hold here.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, man. Tai Spears, a guy that's skyrocketing up value. I'm going to keep it short and sweet with him. We like Tai Spears as a prospect in Dynasty Fantasy Football. We said he had the upside to be a day 2 draft pick. Lo and behold, he ends up being a day 2 draft pick and gets drafted by the Tennessee Titans to play behind Derrick Henry. The funny thing is he isn't playing behind Derrick Henry. He's playing alongside him, if not ahead of him, getting more snaps, getting more opportunities. He is definitely on the rise. A very explosive, exciting kind of fireworks show running back that honestly does really well with the opportunity he is given in an offense that primarily runs the football. Will Levis eventually help Tai Spears to produce more, since Will Levis can actually throw the ball and that'll open the field up for Tai Spears to be more effective? Possibly. So at the moment, today, I'm holding Tai Spears, but when you're talking long-term Dynasty, I don't trust him for a second. I'm going to sell him. He has decent, respectable draft capital, but there are better running backs out there, and I think there's a big rebuild and a big kind of personnel swap for Tennessee coming long-term, and I think Tai Spears could be part of that.
I pulled up his efficiency metrics, expecting to be disappointed. He's actually 9th in true yards per carry, 4.8 yards per carry. Yeah. He's 13th in target share. He's 5th in yards per touch. He's 2nd in juke rate. He's 3rd in breakaway run rate. Dare I say this? I just talked myself into buying him, actually. If you can get him for less than a first. I'm not paying a first. If you can get him for maybe 2 seconds, I think I'm fine with that. I'm okay with this price, actually. Because, again, doing a little bit of a deeper dive while we're sitting here, he's actually been fairly efficient on the ground, not to mention we know he's capable in the receiving game.
You definitely don't want to sell Spears now because we know that Derrick Henry won't be on the Titans after this season, and he will go up in value during the offseason.
So are you taking Henry or Spears on a rebuild?
Oh, on a rebuild, Spears.
Yep. Are you taking Ramondre or Spears?
That's a good question.
I'll take Spears. What about Brian Robinson or Spears?
Spears.
What about James Cook or Spears?
That's close.
I think they're even.
Probably. I think you're right. There's a path for Spears to go up in value more than James Cook this offseason.
Yes.
Which is why, again, he's not a sell now. I would debate whether or not he's a sell later.
I think you would buy now to see and then maybe sell later.
Okay.
But I'm fine buying him.
Okay. I could buy that.
Because the efficiency metrics lead me to believe that he could flash later.
Okay.
And then you have, what the frick is David Montgomery doing at RB17? I've got to buy him in every single league.
Yeah.
Every single league.
Yeah.
That was just
a side note.
A side note there.
Adam Thielen is going to be our next guy here. And what are we doing with Adam Thielen? If you're a contender, buy him, man. He's probably the cheapest, highest producing wide receiver that you can get, honestly, for a second. A lot of rebuilds will
take a second
easily. I was able to get 2 seconds. I think some contenders will have to pay 2 seconds if their rebuilds are smart who own Adam Thielen. But ultimately, I think across the board, in general, you're able to buy Adam Thielen for a second. That's absolutely what you're looking to pay as a contender to get a wide receiver one right now who's getting ridiculous target volume and has such a nice floor. Michael Wilson is going to be our last guy here. He's also skyrocketing up in value. I think with him, he was another guy that we really liked, not in the pre-draft process, but after he was drafted to Arizona, we were like, hey, this is a situation that could end up being really friendly for him. We don't know if Arizona is going to be able to pay Marquise Brown. We don't know. I think Michael Wilson, regardless of who he's playing behind, could be a very effective wide receiver in his own right. Obviously, cap ceiling, but him skyrocketing in value is due to the production he's been getting with Josh Dobbs. So whether it's Caleb Williams next year, Drake May, or Kyler Murray, I think regardless, you're going to see Michael Wilson reap the benefits of that opportunity. Because, I mean, you've seen Rondell Moore do it. You saw DeAndre Hopkins do it. Christian Kirk do it. Help me. Who else was there that even produced last year? It was another receiver that was doing okay. I don't know. You're not helping me here. But ultimately, Michael Wilson, I like him as a talent. I think he's a good route runner. I think he's a good fit in Arizona long-term and what they were looking for. That's why they took him in the 3rd round. So am I buying Michael Wilson? Yeah, I still think he's pretty cheap. And if you're a rebuild and you're shipping off someone like Adam Thielen, go get Michael Wilson in a 3rd. That's something I'd absolutely be looking for. So
I know the guy you're thinking of now, and I can't think of his name. He was the waiver guy that everybody was picking up midseason, right?
Yeah.
What was his name? We're going to think of it.
Greg Dortch.
Dortch, that's right. I knew it was something weird.
Yep.
Yeah. I intentionally was messing with you and not helping you. So I mean, if Michael Wilson's going around, you can get him for Jonathan Mingo. Yeah. Jalen Hyatt. Yeah.
Yep.
Josh Palmer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you have got some buy low guys. Tyler Lockett's there, wide receiver 50. That's so freaking stupid.
Nuts.
And Treylon Burks, 51. Like, I'd maybe consider moving Michael Wilson for those guys. So, yeah, probably more of a hybrid there and situationally. But, I mean, I think we're pretty confident in Michael Wilson. We liked him. So, all right, do us a huge favor. If you play Dynasty, make sure you subscribe. Drop a like on this video. And if you want one of these, team blueprints, flockfantasy.com/domain. The Mother Flocker tier gets you a team blueprint. It's a picture of what your Dynasty team current build is. We grade all your position groups. We give you a 3-year outlook. We give you some moves to make. It's a very detailed and thorough plan for your Dynasty team, and it's really pretty too. So, flockfantasy.com/domain. Choose the Mother Flocker tier. Get one of those, and you get to join our community. You get trade advice. You get to be in our DMs, which is pretty cool. You get to get all of our rankings and articles. Flockfantasy.com/domain. Mother Flocker tier. Get a blueprint. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you later.